Yep.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you all for joining. We welcome you to episode 1 of Project Luminer Know How to Research, Review, and Represent. We have two amazing guests joining us today, Ms. Ramya Ramesh and Mr. Venkatesh Sir. Mr. Venkatesh Sir, with corporate experience of 20 years, a professor at SIES College of Management Studies, and also a member of Rasor, will explain us about research, review, and represent. So, sir, would you like to take this over?
Hi, good evening, all of you. Thank you so much, Aditi. Thank you, all of you. I'm also a student. I must say that I'm doing my diploma course also with the IIT Madras program. So let me just jump into it quickly. Research, review, and represent is if you could understand the three words, and I will quickly try and help you with all these three words. The first thing is research, which is very, very fundamental. Most of them do not know how do we go about starting research. So the best way of starting a research is getting a topic. Okay, my voice is okay. Is that okay now? Is that okay now, Naveen? Okay. The best way to start a research is to identify a topic, and once you identify a topic, it could be any topic which you have a generic idea. So no worries about it. Say, let's take an example of a topic like uh, AI in defense. It's a very broad topic. So the first thing what you do is research. So what do you mean by that? You go to different websites which give you opportunities to look at different papers in this area. So put the subject AI in research and you will get umpty numbers of papers. Considering that we are all students, we don't have full access to all the papers. You could go to Google Scholar and identify papers which can be downloadable and papers which are of last 5 years, which is a very simple validation and filtration. Once you do that, you'll get to know at least 10 papers and download them. That is the first part, which is known as research. What is the second part? Review it. That means read the paper. Now, of course, as a fresh young researcher, you will not have an understanding of how to go about reading it. But there are three, four important headings in every research paper which you should know. The first heading is the abstract. The second heading is the theory which is used in that paper. Third heading is the statistical methods which they have used in that paper. Fourth point, sorry, is the objective or the hypothesis which they must have mentioned in the paper. And the fifth one is absolutely the conclusion of the paper. So thus read these 5 to 6 headers. And how to read it? Very simple. Just copy those headings of the content, which is almost 4 to 5 lines or max 8 to 10 lines, and put it as a column in your Excel sheet, a very simple row by column or a Google sheet. And you do it row wise for each paper. So you will have an Excel sheet which will have 10 rows and say 6 columns, and each column has the data. That's the second part, which is review. The third part, what you need to do is go through that in totality from the Excel sheet. Then, being an analytics student, you will be able to make some sense of that data. Do not use any programming, coding, or anything. Just go through, read it, and make sense of it, and come up with your representation of that paper. That is as simple as research, review, and represent. Now, why I make it easy to make you understand is because as a first step to the researcher is to go through the paper and understand how research papers are written. And research, review, and represent actually helps you to go through that. So I have just made it as brief as possible. And I'm sure that there are people who can speak in much more detail, especially Ramya, who has won this the first inaugural competition. And we can talk more. You could connect anytime and we can talk more. So it was a very simple one. Anybody who has any view on this, any questions we can take after what Ramya speaks about. Does that make sense, Aditi? Is that okay?
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Talking about Ramya, now I would like to introduce Ramya Ramesh, the 2023 Paradox RRR winner, as well as a researcher of diverse experience with international universities, and currently an analyst at Deloitte, to give us some insight about her RRR experience as a BS degree student. Ramya, would you take this over?
Sure, sure. Thank you very much for the very warm welcome. So, a lot of compliments coming my way. And yeah, I mean, thank you very much once again. Um, I had uh, I had participated in RRR, which was previously a competition, on 28th of May, if I remember correctly, and it was actually a really enriching experience. So first things first, I'm going to ask every one of you here and whoever else is going to be watching this to definitely give it a go, because it's meant for people who are beginners, and there's no one here to judge. It's mainly for you to learn. So that's one of the things that made me start it. So I was kind of a novice back then, so I wanted to give it a go. What I started with and my topic, I think I would share my presentation right now. So this is going to be my personal experience, nothing else. So this maybe could help you guys navigate. So this is not exact pointers or a set uh, kind of flow that could help you, but maybe it could get you started with what you want to do for your presentation as well. So I had presented on uh, the deep generative models for molecule generation. I know it sounds very scary in the beginning, but I'll tell you how I started off with this thing. So I think generative AI, I'm sure everyone has heard loads of things about it going right now, and there's always something new happening. So if you're interested in an interdisciplinary topic like this, and with AI, you have so many things that you can explore. As Venkatesh sir has excellently mentioned, Google Scholar, that was the first place that I attacked for all of my papers and everything else that I wanted to look for. So I started off with there, and why I was interested in molecule generation, which is basically drug molecule generation, like graph generation. So this was a new thing for me, and well, if I have to say, it's one of the reasons my was because my college also had an assignment on the same, and this was like a wonderful start for me with RRR, so I could go forward with. It was like a the timing really matched, so I was able to showcase my work here and then move it forward there. So, okay, while it takes time to share my screen, I'll explain about the topic briefly. So I had collected about 10 papers. I think it's 10 papers and about 10 slides. I will explain that I had made a few mistakes because my presentation went for a very long period of time. So this can be made very brief, and especially because it's meant for people who are beginners. So the briefer you get, the better. Yeah, okay, I think it's visible now. So this was my presentation. You can see it's about 18 slides, which was a lot, and the font was too small. But it's like I had learned so much of new stuff, and I was like, okay, this is really exciting. I have to put it all, collate everything together. But you could definitely revise this through. I'm being very honest here, so you could definitely revise this through. As Venkatesh sir already told, abstract is one of the first places that you see and understand like the gist, because they explain what they are introducing, what is, and they also give you what is the result in brief as to what a particular model or something is meant to work on. And that's one of the first places you check. So what I did here was collate the abstracts of all the 10 papers that I had gone through, and I tried to find a connection with each paper. So again, Venkatesh sir has pointed out, go to Google Scholar, find any topic that you're interested in. May start out as brief as possible, and go through the past 5 years papers. I mean, you can filter those. So you do get a lot of review papers to begin with. So if you're very new to the topic, you can start reading a review paper wherein they give you a brief about all the papers that they have used in that review paper, so that you know how to connect the different papers together. So that was one thing I did. Another thing was, as you go from one paper to another, like this is one, it's a model called Molgan. What happens here in this paper is you get comparison of this model with other models. So here I've got to know many other such model names as well, and its comparison results with this model. So I try to search up for these other models. So that's one way I try to connect these different models together and then find papers relating to the same, so that I get a good sequence as to how everything has been progressed, have everything progressed in this topic. Like here as well, this is another variational encoder called junction tree variation autoencoder. And again, you can see all of these how they're comparing this results with any other model results, and this is usually there in most of the papers. So abstract is the first place you look for all of these things, and then you can start off with the theory, and conclusion is also an important place because they tell you what is lacking in that particular paper. So you look for another paper that may have worked on something that they have lacked in the current paper. So once I went about with the abstract, I went through introduction. So again, this is very specific to my topic, so I'm not going to delve deep into it. What I did was I tried to even find videos on YouTube, which I did find, to understand my topic in a better way. So that way I was able to find connections. And here you can see one way I did was, I even papers do this, is how they cite your paper, any paper that they get in. You'll observe this with research papers or anything else, and later on you put your references. So you cite your papers, and also one thing you can do is to bold the important points. So despite my presentation being really long, I was able to bold what was important and only showcase and fix on those points. So I didn't have to explain all of this in detail, especially for someone that's a novice in this particular thing. So that's one thing you can see with most of this. So I was able to put the points, I was able to connect papers from what's missing in one paper was solved by some other paper, and so on. And this usually you'll get with the dates of the papers published as well. And I kept another conclusion and results, which again I collated from all these papers. And you can see the tables that I have showcased in these papers that I collected. I have put them across here as well. So basically, my topic was about all these different generative AI models, which are able to generate molecular graphs on a chemical space that's not uh, seen by us, or that's not discovered by us yet. And basically, those molecules which can adhere to some desired properties. So we give the desired properties and they generate new molecules that we've not known. And that was the basic abstract or understanding of this thing. And finally, references are very important, and how you cite them in your PPT is also useful. Now, why I tell you to order your PPT this way is when you start writing a review paper based on this, this is the exact flow that's followed there as well. This is how you cite your papers, this is how you go about with the theory and then
Sort
with
of data sheet.
conclusion. Sorry?
Sort of data sheet.
Yeah, sort of. So it starts out with your theory. You have to, right after you've taken something from a paper, then what you do is you put, like here you can see, you put it in, you cite it this way and say that work in that paper highlights the following. This is how the theory goes by in very brief format. Same way you have to collate in results and conclusion as well, and then put all the papers in the same order across in references. And as the same way you can do with abstract as well. But one important thing of why RRR is useful is because if you are able to manage to make your PPT in this format, this very easily can be translated to an actual review paper. And once you start to go through these review papers, and especially the results and conclusions, wherein they say that our paper is not able to tackle this certain thing, and when you learn about the theory of all of these papers more thoroughly, you get to learn what each paper was lacking, and that you can actually find new ideas that you can work on like new to be able to publish your own original work as well. But as a novice, you don't have to worry about that much in detail. If this structure is followed, a review paper is already in your hands, because this is exactly the structure that will be used for review paper, which and I have published a review paper before, so this sort of helps. So RRR, one of the major points I would say is that if you follow the structure and try to eh, basically review paper is to be able to condense your material and your understanding to main points as good as as much as possible and in a very crisp manner. And in this format, if you learn how to do that, your paper is ready. And also, apart from paper, you also get to learn a lot about this topic because you're going through all of the research that has taken place over the past 5 years. You've understood what's the trends going on. You've been able to collate everything and condense all of this material, and you know now going forward what is left to be done as well. So your future enhancements can be added, and you can put across points on what can be improved as well. So this was my experience, I would say, and I would love to take any questions. Maybe if anyone has anything in particular. Okay,
Nice, thank you.
I'll just stop presenting.
If anybody has any questions, they can ask now, or they can put in the chat box.
Everyone having any questions is totally welcomed here, right? And if you have any doubt with Ramya ma'am and Venkatesh sir, feel free to just mention the guest and ask your question. And we will start with the people who have raised their hand. So yeah, Amit, please go on with your question. Okay.
Sorry, by
And
mistake I may raised. No, I have.
okay, okay,
But
okay.
one question is like, suppose one data is there, but we are not able to figure out what to do with this. Like, suppose I am working in an aerospace and defense right now, so I will be looking at for like one amplifiers or whatever it is. But sometimes, like in that data sheet, it will not be mentioned at how much current you should get, how much you should. So what we should do? How to find figure out that?
I would say the first way you can start off something is to not take in original papers. I know when you're writing your own review paper, you have to take in original papers. But if you're just starting out, what you could do is again go to Google Scholar, look at the past 5 years papers, and look for review papers. So they would say that it's a literature survey or it's a systematic review and so on.
Means compare multiple papers, multiple sites. You're saying?
Yes, the paper
Yeah.
itself
Okay.
would compare some multiple papers, and
Yeah.
there again, their idea would also be to make it's to be able to condense and basically simplify the content of many other papers.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
if you're
Yeah.
starting out at the very beginning, that's the first thing you would do is to look for other review papers and see how well they have simplified the content of these different papers. Then from their reference sections, you can look for targeted papers that you feel have made some significant impact. So they would mention that in the review paper as well. So anything, as you can say, I mean, this is usually what review papers do, and I think you could start off with going through a review paper first. Then you can select for other papers from their references, and then you can try to read them beyond this. What I did apart from this was also go through you. I fortunately for this particular topic that I'd taken found YouTube videos as well who are tackling these particular papers and trying to find code for them. So they were trying to explain the code. Now that is way advanced. You don't have to go through code everything, but they do try to through that they try to tell you what are the advantages and disadvantages and what were they trying to tackle in the paper and so on. So that was something useful that I found. If you start, I'm sure that for basic concepts like if you're saying what's Gen AI or what's this that, you should be able to get good review YouTube videos. Now after that, if you're going for, as you said, just for aviation or something very specific, you can start off with review papers. That's the first thing you would do, and then you can find original papers from there, and then you can proceed with your RRR presentation and subsequently your own review paper.
Ramya, Am I
Yes.
audible? Uh,
Yes. Yes.
you chosen chem informatics, drug discovery,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Generative AI model. Then we have to use pre-trained model. While going for implementation, we have to choose one pre-trained model. So
Usually, yes.
how you choose the right model, right pre-trained model for your problem?
So this is again just based on RRR. So the implementation is not of a concern here because that's way too advanced. Once you feel like once you're done with RRR and you want to, you've found maybe after reading these set of papers which you collated, you've found certain drawbacks that you think can be eliminated by you. Then you start to work on it original, like to get something original out of it, not something. But this is as a review paper. I had not implemented any code. I only went through their theory and basically their drawbacks, and that can help me connect to the next model and so on.
Okay, so for triple RRR, we have to go for only review. That is review
We
papers.
have to. So you start when if you're
Start
a
with.
novice, you're starting with review because you don't know what's the extent of papers you get. From
Okay.
there, you can find from the references you can find the original papers.
Okay.
From there, you can collate papers that you know you can, and then you find a connection between the papers, saying that one paper has done this. In that drawback, there was something else. Then the next paper is able to address that drawback,
Okay.
and this cycle, this whole sequence continues. So you collate such papers and then you make a presentation out of it. So this is for a very beginner level who is just starting to learn how to read papers and how to condense that information and how to just start off. From here, you could go about with original work.
Okay.
Ma'am,
Thank you.
can I ask
Thank
a
you.
question?
Yeah,
Yes.
so just a small input. Somebody was asking more about review research paper and a review paper. So a research paper is identified problem which you are trying to do research. It could be an exploratory or experimental or a research which has activity where you do a primary, secondary data collection, try and understand the problem, use an appropriate theory in practice if it is non-experimental, and then come up with a statistical finding and confirm whether the sample which you considered is having a correct representation of the population so that you have a hypothesis confirmed, and then you conclude the research problem with your findings. So that is a standard research paper, which is one of the important things in research which everybody does. Now, during the process, when you don't know what is the problem statement you want to look at, you first find out a generic thing and funnel it down to a smallest possible problem statement. So one of the things in research is that problem statement has to be very objective. Now, how do you do that? So you don't know how to do it. So there are a lot of people who consider a particular problem statement and try and find out different people who have written about that problem statement in different ways. For example, I will talk about AI in research. Somebody will talk about AI in research methodology. Somebody will talk about AI in experimental research. So everybody has their own approach towards that problem statement. And there is some other person who wants to know what exactly is AI in research. So he or she will try and do a review of all the papers. So there are two ways reviews are done. One is there is something known as a bibliometric analysis. Now, what is a bibliometric analysis? Nothing but a summary of topic, how many people have written about it, who are the different authors, what are the different ways in which is written, how many people use that paper to cite for their own paper, a detailed demographic understanding of the topic written by a multiple number of authors. That is bibliometric analysis in a very simplest way I'm explaining. The other way is the next person is something is known as a meta-analysis. So what is a meta-analysis? You identify papers of the same topic and you try and get into further detail. you get into the detail about the statistical tool where they have used in each of the papers, the population what they use or a sample what they used in each of the papers, and try and correlate whether the statistical outcome was same or is there a variance between the statistical outcome for the same objective using different statistical tool. So this gives you a profound understanding of how this particular topic has been written by people and in which way the best statistical tool can be used. Now, I'm again making it very, very brief. Meta-analysis, it's a subject by itself. We can have a professor talking for 3-4 hours. But the idea is the review paper just gives you a clear understanding कि इस पेपर में मुझे और इस टॉपिक में मुझे क्या करना है और मुझे क्या तक काम हुआ है और मैं आगे क्या कर सकता हूँ. I think that's the fundamental understanding of a review paper. I hope it makes sense to all of you.
Yeah.
Sir, can I have some questions? Sir and madam.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, okay. I as a beginner, like, can I publish a review paper? Like, I'm just asking, like, if I am want to
Yes,
publish
you
something.
can publish a review paper. Bibliometric analysis, meta-analysis are review papers which are published. So it is a very important contribution to the research domain and the society. Like if somebody is going to talk about quantum computing, people don't know what to do in quantum computing. So there are people who go through a lot of papers and do a meta-analysis of quantum computing as a topic. So it gives a very good approach for people who want to work on quantum computing. So definitely you can publish a review paper, publish a bibliometric. However, bibliometric has become now more of a cliche because it's a very simple software like Nivio. You use it, it takes half an hour to write a bibliometric. So people don't just do bibliometric. Nowadays, the publications don't purely publish a bibliometric paper. But yes, meta-analysis is a long drawn activity. It's a very interesting thing. So definitely you can.
And one more question. My thing is like when I go through a question paper, there are a lot of things which is like some concept which are very difficult to understand. So if I try to go on YouTube, Google, like it's like a very long thing. So do I need to spend time to understand each and everything, like, or is it just to have a overall picture of some concept in order to understand the paper?
So research is in detail. So research is you need to understand the concept, context, and the content. There are three important things in research. One is a concept, one is a context, and one is a content. Computing is a concept, context is in the realm of AI, and content is what is happening in quantum computing today. So you need to know these three C's of understanding any topic. So it is important. And research is a detailed, intense one. So a top line view of understanding may help you in one or two initiatives, but it needs a solid foundation. So that's the reason if you do a PhD, it takes 6 to 5 to 7 hours, 7 years, because you need to get deeper into the concept, context of where it is being used, and content, what is the actual stuff which has to be right. So it is important. Uh, and the more you get into the detailing, the more you will be able to remove and filter out the topics which are more generic and you get into a specific topic.
And how to pick research papers? Like if we give a particular search in the Google Scholar, there are a lot of papers will be coming. So how to categorize which will be useful for me, or which
So
3 or 4 research paper which if I pick will give a good idea about that topic. So how can I come to a conclusion?
So that's what Ramya also said. Now, the best way to is put a topic of your interest in the Google Scholar, and the left side there are options available: full papers, downloadable papers, review papers, research papers. Check on the review paper. So at least you will get a generic idea about what is happening in that topic. what all different things people have compared, and then you narrow down. So research is narrowing down. It is not open. You cannot write a research on IIT Madras. You have to write a research on specific area of IIT Madras. You have to talk about IIT Madras uh, distance education. Again, you have to get into that. So there is this concept of five whys. I'm not sure whether it's the right forum, but we can talk about that. Whenever you want to get into the last question, you ask that five why. Okay, what is IIT Madras? Why IIT Madras? Why distance education? Why BSc IIT? So you get into that five whys, then you'll come to know a last statement where you don't have a further why. That is actually the problem which you need to decipher. So it is a process. So you have to go deeper. It is not a sales and a marketing presentation, despite the fact that I spent a long time in that also is equally important. But it needs some amount of time.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Got it.
Thank you. I would like to ask Mr. Rajesh, please ask your question.
Thank you. Sorry. My question was specifically for the review papers. Generative AI, can it be used for it? I think somebody touched on that already. Maybe Ramya started on that idea. Can we use generative AI for collecting or getting an abstract?
Uh, Wait, so you mean using generative AI to do your work?
Yes.
No, I meant that my presentation was on using generative AI, but I didn't mean using the software, like the model itself, to get
So
work
this is
done
a
for you.
very interesting and a controversial thing. I'm doing my PhD, so I can tell you this. So see,
Okay.
there is a different school of thought. There are two representations of the jury and the educational people. Some very categorically say that it's a technology; it should be put to use for the PhD work or research work. And there is other school of thought who completely are against it.
Hmm.
Now, as a PhD student, I can suggest a midway. Do not use a generative AI to write your research paper,
Yes.
please, because it is easily identified. Because Turnitin is a very interesting software.
Right.
You use Turnitin, you will immediately know how much of this is plagiarized. The what you could probably do is you put your research question in the generative AI and try and to get a deeper understanding of the literature record. So I think what we could probably do is use the generative AI for reduction of your time for a literature review, because literature review typically takes a good 4 to 6 months and
Right.
it's an ongoing process.
Right.
However, if you could use a generative AI to find a literature review process, I think that's a good, smarter way of doing it.
Right. Basically, summarizing papers, right?
Summarizing papers, identifying topic, getting drilled down to the specific topic basis
Oh,
your prompt. I
okay.
think they are very, very helpful to structure your research thought.
Okay.
But writing is completely a
I
no.
understand. So that is not my intention. My intention was to filter out multiple
Yes,
papers.
that is a very good idea.
Yeah. And a topic related to that is like when uh, when we write, when we select say 10 papers and write review, and I wanted to find out like who comes before and who comes after, something like one of the paper may be very old, and the I wanted to find out what is new in that field. For example, uh, responsible AI may be in medical field. So how is that identifying the latest in this topic possible? Yeah, I understand one way of doing it is going through Google Scholar and other list of papers and trying to find out. Is there any other tool which does this? Like, is there a ranking, or this is the top paper? Is there some kind of, this is the latest one kind of listing, something like a billboard or top 10 songs, like the top 10 papers, top 10. And basically, I'm trying to make machines do my work, but still, Is
No.
that
So there is nothing top 10 because every research is unique. It has a unique problem statement which is being solved. So it cannot be compared.
hmm,
Topics can be compared, but research is a unique work. It is not competing with any other research paper.
hmm,
Okay, so obviously there is no ranking. However, there is a citation index, which is typically a particular score where a research paper gets a score of how many people have actually used the citation of that paper, which
hmm,
basically speaks about its popularity.
right.
So there are three, four KPIs or indicators or metrics in that,
Hmm,
which anyway we'll talk when some other time. So
okay.
that is helpful to understand the best papers because the papers which are cited the most are the papers which are really looked for.
Right.
The second is very clear chronological order. The latest will be so if you look at Google Scholar or a Scopus database,
Uh-huh.
any research paper which has been published as of 24 hours before is updated in the Google Scholar or a Scopus database.
Okay.
So that is as latest as possible. I would definitely vouch on Scopus. Definitely Google Scholar is also a search engine, so obviously it will also get a lot of stuff from Scopus.
Other way of I understood your point. The other way of asking my question is there something like bigger circle and smaller circles wherein the bigger circle will have almost all of the subtopics, and when we go down there's a
So
keyword
that
based
can be done
topic.
using a bibliometric analysis. So if you use a software known as Nivio, Nivio basically helps you to give you a very beautiful visualization of how many authors have written the topic, what are the keywords in which they have used the topic,
Oh,
and how this whole bibliometric thing works. So it gives you a very beautiful visualization,
can you
and it's a
please
very
repeat
easy.
the name of the tool?
Nivio, NV, Nivio, NVIVO,
NVI view. Okay, okay,
Nivio.
that
So
Yes,
helps.
just say
sir.
bibliometric.
Sir, 1 second, sir. NVI view.
Nivio, Nivio, or Vigio. I don't worry. I'll just put it in the chat. I'll just put it in the chat. Wait, I may have one bibliometric image. So let me just check. So I'll just try and show you one thing.
Okay.
Some paper work in progress, but I'll try and show you something.
So the intention is to find out the like something like a Google map. What is nearby?
Yeah, something which is like a Vigio, not Nivio. Nivio is for qualitative analysis. I'm sorry, it's Vigio.
Vishu was name of
Vigio. One second, let me just show you some work which I've done.
Vishu was Microsoft software name.
No. Give me one second. I'll just tell you.
Very similar to the word
Okay,
cloud.
was viewer. I'm so sorry. It is was viewer.
Could you please spell it?
VOS was viewer.
Okay.
I'm just sending you Google link. Sorry, I'm just sending you one link in the chat.
Okay.
So this basically will give you how to use a was viewer for a bibliometric analysis.
Okay.
wasviewer.com. Yeah. So I think it's a free software. So it gives you links. Like for example, I'll just show you one visual of what I did. I didn't get it ready. I'll just try and see if I have.
Yes. Actually, I wanted to do this. Somebody's already done. This is more like a word cloud, right?
Yeah, it is a word cloud which will give you the keywords of what people are writing about their topic. It
Okay.
also gives you a link of how many people have written how many papers,
Hmm.
how many people have written common papers, from
Okay.
when this paper was written till which year, what is the current status, and which are
Wonderful.
the common authors. So the more number of authors, you will get to know whom paper. So this gives you who are the subject matter experts of that topic. So you can then only focus on their papers.
Wonderful, wonderful.
So today it has become more of a cliche. People try and write a bibliometric as a first step towards research. In the
Okay,
last 20, before 2020, there was a plethora of Indian authors just writing left, right, and center bibliometric, and all were getting published in ABDC journals. But
okay,
they have also become very smart. So this is a very easy one because you can use bibliometry using a particular R software known as BiblioShiny. That was a
yeah.
little time consuming affair, but with Visual Viewer, it is very easy.
Okay. So A has made one more job redundant. Okay, thank you. That was very helpful.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. I will take few questions, and after that, every question can be sent over email. So, Naveen, please ask your question.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, ma'am. So, sir, my question is: suppose I have, like, my previous questions were also regarding that have been answered already. So, I'd like to thank you for that. So, my left question one is that suppose I have understood the topic, I have researched it, and I have understood it. So now comes into the linguistic part of the paper. That how, in what manner shall I write it? As I have noticed that some papers use, super hard language with an extended set of vocabulary and too difficult to read, while some also use a bit of simplistic manner of language. So which one shall we start with? Which one is the most accurate one to start with, the easier one? As like, I don't think if we take out into super casual language, and so it will not get accepted, and that's the, while that is easier to write. So but to what level of complexity in language is preferred, is accepted into the publications? And one more thing is, how do we increase our level up to that? As my English is not that great, so while I may be able to speak up in the casual language, but if we take it to a bit of complex level, or increase the level of language, my English is die down. So how can I improve onto my linguistic phase of language as well?
Uh, okay, I'll take it up and then I can give Venkatesh sir the chance to add on. So linguistic, I think I first started out with papers. It was hard for me as well. This is coming from someone who's a beginner. I mean, who had started out then and still is a beginner, I would say. So what I did was every time I had come across any lingo or any scientific term, I would look for their example. I would look for their meanings and in-depth knowledge about it. Now, when it comes to publishing papers, one thing is very important that has to be touched upon, which is plagiarism. So, because when you're talking about like review papers, you would think that it just means collating a bunch of papers, taking up sentences from individual papers and putting it in yours. But that's not how it works. They do check for plagiarism content, which means how similar your paper is to past papers that have been published. So just trying to copy the content because it sounds very fancy is not going to be useful, and also trying to simplify the language just uh, not is if in a sense that if it tries to remove the meaning out of the sentence, then that's also not good enough. So what I had done was like you could use paraphrasing. One way to try to make the sentence, I mean, you can put across the same sentence in a different meaning, but this is for only those which don't involve scientific terms. If they do involve scientific terms, then and I don't usually you won't have any alternatives to them. But as we say, how do you improve your literature? It's by reading more and more and trying to. As a child, what would you do? How would you? You won't come out of the womb and start out reading papers and all of that. So, what you do is start reading, start practicing, come across more in the field, not just through papers. Maybe you can be updated through with news. It could be. Come across so many such advancements happening in. LinkedIn also, if you find the right channels. And there are a lot of other places you can find these kind of summarizations of what's happening within that field. So I would say start off reading with that and get accustomed uh, to the scientific terms and even outside of it, and then you can start working on writing your own content. So this is not something that you immediately come out and you should be able to publish something great. So uh, I think, yeah, that's one. With practice, you will definitely be able to improve yourself. You won't just start off and you'll be like, oh, I was able to read this paper first time. I was able to understand everything. Nothing went over my head. That's not something that happens. That's why RRR, as I told, is one way you can start off with um, learning and just figuring out how, because they do say research is very hard later on, but the starting is even worse. It's like you really have to put in that dedication to not feel demotivated at any point of time. So it starts out, you'd be like, okay, this is so new, there's so much in here, what do you do, and everything. But that's one of the reasons I feel everyone who's here, who's going to put in effort into this competition, is someone who's really willing to put themselves forward into this and step into it. And from there, with your peers, and you have so many people here to support you as well, from there you can start out and go somewhere else altogether. I would love Venkatesh sir to add on to
No,
this.
so I was just saying, so I'm just trying to give you a different full form of RRR. So researchers reject, repeat, reject. And that is what will happen. And I am telling you with my experience, with the last 3 years of my coursework at my PhD, 7 papers of mine has got rejected till now. And I'm doing a review for the last 3 papers again and again. The third and the fourth review I'm doing. The point is not about the concept. Point is not about the topic. Point is not about your methodology or the uniqueness of the topic. The point is how you write. Literature of research is absolutely different than your colloquial English, Shakespearean English, what you use in the office, and what you learn in the school. So academic writing is a very, very different ball game. And for that, you have to just do the 3 things: repeat, repeat, repeat. So that's the reason it takes 3 to 4 years to know how to write a research paper. And that is a art which can only happen over a period of time. You have to put in your effort. If you don't understand, you have to read it again. It's like first time reading a Robert Ludlum novel. So, or an I don't know how many people have read Robert Ludlum. Is one of the most interesting mystery writer. So it is a little tough English. Or first time listening to something on Shakespeare. So you need to learn it. I think that's the only answer. There's no other answer. There's no shortcut in research for sure.
Yeah, thank you, sir. And I hope Naveen it answered your
Yeah,
query.
adding to it, Aryan, and here with Project Luminer is what we are doing is that giving you a chance to like the thing is that with RAR you will start RAR will going to be very basic and it's not going to be that much tough, and thereafter we will ensure that you will repeat, 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 and until you publish you will keep repeating the thing.
Well said, Avijit. And yes, this is where we are focusing with this project Lumina. But with the last 2 questions, we will be going ahead and end the session. So, Preetham, please unmute yourself and go with your question.
Hi,
Hi.
good evening. So, my question was regarding review. So, recently, me and my friend have written a review on CRISPR-Cas9 genome editing technology, and we had submitted it to a peer review journal. It's called MDPI, and they rejected it, unfortunately. So, like, what can we do? Like, what can be the next step? Um, yeah, and the last question was, is there any courses you want to recommend for research and research writing?
Usually, when you submit any paper to any be it conference or journal, I'm sure if they reject, they should be giving you a reason for rejecting it as well. And
Actually,
I've
there
come
is
across this as well. So that's one of the places you can start off.
actually
I'm
they
sure.
didn't give any reaction reason. They said that uh, wait, they told that our decision is not necessarily a reflection of your quality of your work. Yeah.
Yeah, that is typically the way you have written it. When we get a rejection of quality of work, that means you have not used the research methodology well. So there could be various reasons. The reasons could be your inappropriate sample, inappropriate statistical technique, hypothesis not matching with your research objective, inappropriate theory used for building a construct. So there could be numerous reasons which can be a part of quality of work.
Okay, got it.
And
And
they don't
yeah.
say that reason. You have to, unless and until there is something very specific, they would probably say that, you cut down on the last paragraph or rework on your conclusion, or maybe your interpretation of the result is not correct. Like you got a variance of XYZ, and then you say that, things are very good, or you probably give some, or you use the wrong statistical test. Both are non, both are non-numeric variables, and you're trying to use a regression, which is not correct. So you need to know that. So statistical interpretation, methodology, everything has a mix when it says quality of work is not good.
Got it.
Okay, I think it answered your question. And moving ahead, Amey, please ask your question.
Yeah, my question is that everyone is speaking about the Google Scholar for searching the research paper. Can we use archive.org? Is this their website good or there is some problem? Archive.org.
That website is sorry to answer, guest, but I have this answer, so I'll be very much happy to answer this. So, Amey, there are tons of sites which you can refer for the free research paper resources. Archives is one of them, and it's a very fantastic one, in my opinion. And there about like apart from that, there are some free papers even on IEEE and other resources. For that particular purpose, we actually, as a team, we worked together and listed out some of the website which offers such papers. So as I mentioned earlier, I'll share the same document in the next email from the project Lumina. So don't worry, within a day or two, we'll be getting the same. And there are some unethical ways, but since we are talking ethical things here, let's not go about it. Right. Matlab, there is something, okay. So I can talk about it in personal, but as a fellow researcher, I will be disheartened if somebody is, just getting my work in a very unethical way, especially when I'm writing paper on ethical, practices to be followed using AI and all. So yeah, that is there, but yeah. For the part, yes, you will get the resource via email itself, so don't you worry. And
Okay.
yes, archive is one of the best resource you can use, and it was also suggested by Professor Ganpati Krishnamurthy from IIT Madras. So when he had the session, he suggested the same.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, yes.
Sir,
And with
Venkatesh sir. Venkatesh sir, excuse me sir.
Yes, ma'am, please.
Sir, can you please explain that VOS viewer online? How can we connect that is like a word cloud?
No, no. WAS Viewer is a software which will help
Okay,
you to visualize
okay,
a lot of data points of different papers,
okay,
especially the demographics. When I say demographics in a marketing parlance or a management parlance, is how many people have written about that topic, which
okay,
are the years they wrote the topic, is there any common keywords they used. So let me try and share with you in an email. I'll share it to Aryan. I can
okay,
just show one image of how it looks. Maybe I'm not able to get my paper where I've written, maybe in the other laptop. I'll share that with you. How does the output of a WAS viewer look?
okay.
Or I will
Uh,
share you how to write a bibliometric paper. I have that paper. I'll share you how to write a bibliometric paper. It's a very nice paper. It's a published paper of one of our mentors, Atul, who has come up for a small session. I'll share. I'll share a paper here.
Yes, sir. Sir, for Aryan, sir, uh, what's the next step in RRR? What we have to do?
Pardon me.
That is the what's the next step to
Okay.
After
participate?
RRR, he's
Yes.
asking. So we'll actually have a session. We will share the link with the post email as well, and in this invitations mail, you also I think get the session link. But the thing is that after RRR, we will scrutinize whatever you submit your presentations and your documents. Thereafter, we will ask you to present. If you are like alone in the domain you are working on, then we'll try to like contact with some domain expert and have a like presentation session with them. Otherwise, if you working on some common topic, and we will get some good like 4, 5, or 10 people working on the same domain, working on similar domain as you, we're going to conduct a group discussion, like something where you present first and thereafter there are cross questioning thing. And then after done that, we will form groups. Okay, now the group dynamic is basically from 1 to 12. If you are we find you presently alone in working, then we will just create the group with you only, or you have to just start that group. And thereafter we will have some set plan, but basically it is that first you need to identify your problem statement. For that thing, we will provide we will ask to find some more literatures, read that. And there are things in plan, and for detailed thing, I think you can just read the event report or go through the session once, which happened on 28th February, I think.
Yeah, so the mail in which we announced this event, you will find the access to the previous happened event, and you can also find the recording of the session on the YouTube itself. So, with this, I would like to end the session, and I hope everybody got their query sorted. If anything, they are very much welcome to mail us or to reach out us using the social media links over here. And yes, for the resources, we will be mostly using Telegram and Discord, because here the chat history remains, and definitely you guys be able be to to track even the previous things we shared to you. So yeah, that would be preferable, but don't worry, it will still be on WhatsApp, right? And I think Aditi, you can take over with this.
Yeah. Thank you guys for joining and making this session interactive. Thank you, Ramya and Venkatesh sir, for taking the time to join us and sharing your insights. We'll be ending the session now. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you,
you all.
everyone. Thank you, Rama ma'am. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you all of you.
Thank you.
See you
Thank you very
soon.
much.
Bye. Bye.
Good
See you.
night, everyone.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.
If Pritam is there, you can ask your questions, raise your hand if he is there. I think not. Okay, we can end the recording, Aryan.